John, 1st chapter, verse 18. Jesus says that nobody has ever seen God. In Exodus 33:20, God tells Moses that nobody can see his face and live. God in all of his essence is unattainable to man. Well, we obviously do receive traces of him, otherwise known as his energies. No, this is not saying that God is made up of parts. In this video, I will be proving the essence-energies distinction in contrast to the belief of absolute divine simplicity. First, before I explain what essence-energies distinction is, I'd rather start by explaining what it is not. So first, I will address some common Thomist talking points. The first argument that you will hear from Thomists, and the most common argument that you will hear from them, is that the essence-energies distinction means that God is made up of parts. This could not be further from the truth. The essence-energies distinction is really viewing God as composite. I guess the Trinity is too, which it obviously isn't. And the reason why we do know that the Trinity is not viewing God up of parts is obviously because of the word distinction. We love using the word distinction instead of saying separate, because if you say separate, it is now made up of parts. Distinct just simply means distinguishable. This word does not inherently imply separation. Another common argument is that theosis requires partaking in his essence. So as we know through some biblical evidence that I pointed out earlier, God's essence is unattainable. His essence will always be on just a different plane of existence than us. He is God. Even when you die and you go to heaven, do you really think that your view and understanding in heaven will be the same as his? He is God. His essence is unattainable, completely inaccessible. Now, Thomists who believe in absolute divine simplicity would say, on the other hand, that God's essence is identical to all of his attributes and his actions, which can problematically imply that the creation directly participates in God's essence. And if we are fully taking place in God's essence, this can blur the lines between the creator-creature distinction and imply panentheism. Another argument that I hear a lot is that the essence-energies distinction overcomplicates God. Is God not supposed to be complicated? Essence-energies distinction just reflects the complexity of biblical revelation. Essence-energies distinction is a very easy way that you can see God as being both transcendent and immanent. If you oversimplify God's nature, then your theology can venture more towards a panentheistic framework where God pervades his creation. Because if you're going to say that God's presence and action in the world literally are his essence, then you may or may not be intending to do this, but you are actually creating a reality in which God's immanence in his creation can make his creation simply an extension or manifestation of his essence, which is ridiculous. That's panentheism. This is the reason why Thomists fail to explain this one dilemma. If humanity can take place in God's essence, which you say we can, then that can only mean one of two things. God's essence is either divisible, which obviously we both know is not true, or humanity becomes a part of God's essence, which is now blurring the line between the creator and the created, which is panentheism. Here's another problem that a lot of Thomists may not understand. If you do view God's actions as a part of his essence, then that can actually make creation necessary and not purely contingent. Think about it. If God's essence and his act of creating are identical, then God could not exist without creating. This is also panentheism, because there is no divine freedom, and now the creation is intrinsic to the creator's being. I could go on for a really long time, but this can actually get pretty complicated and wordy. But I hope I at least put up a decent point to make a lot of the Thomists who see this maybe reconsider. Because I see a lot of really spiteful misrepresentation of essence-energies distinction, and I'm just kind of tired of hearing it. It's just crazy to me that a lot of people think that viewing God's essence as being unattainable and inaccessible is this ridiculous of an ideology, when the counter-argument really is a textbook definition of panentheism. I really appreciate anybody who has bothered to watch this long. God bless you guys, and stay tuned for more.